In a small village, nestled at the foot of the mountains, there lived a man named Haru. The entire village knew him as a kind and gentle soul, yet he always carried an unspoken sorrow on his shoulders. Haru had once been full of life, passionate, and deeply in love with the world around him. But everything changed after a tragedy. 10 years ago, his wife and son were caught in a terrible storm and lost their lives. Since then, Haru had lived an empty existence, working tirelessly, like a shadow of himself, just to numb the pain. Despite living among warm and friendly villagers, Haru kept his distance. He no longer smiled, no longer shared stories like he once did. Each day passed in silent routine, working in the fields, then returning home to solitude. At night, he would sit on his porch, gazing at the endless sky, wondering why life could be so cruel. One day, an elderly monk named Joshu arrived in the village. People whispered that he was a great Zen master, capable of healing wounded souls. The villagers welcomed him with deep respect. Haru, though skeptical of miracles, found himself drawn to the monk's calm, steady gaze. As Joshu passed by the field where Haru was working, he stopped and observed him for a long while. Then, without a word, he sat down beside him, picked up a handful of soil, and let it slip through his thin fingers. "Does the earth feel pain?" Joshu asked. Haru was startled by the odd question. He shook his head. "How could the earth feel pain?" The monk smiled gently. "But if I step on it, does it cry out?" Haru let out a small, dry chuckle. "Number, but it will hold the footprints." Joshu nodded. Just like the human soul, not everyone cries out when they are hurt, but the wounds remain. For the first time in years, something stirred inside Haru. He remained silent, and Joshu simply sat there, as if there was no rush for anything. After a long pause, the old monk stood up and walked away, leaving behind a single sentence. "If you wish to understand your pain, come find me in the mountains." Haru didn't give it much thought at first, but Joshu's words lingered in his mind for days. Then, one morning, as the golden light of dawn bathed the distant peaks, Haru made a decision. He would go. The journey to the mountains. The path was steep and slippery, yet strangely, with each step, Haru felt a growing sense of lightness. When he finally arrived, he found Joshu meditating beside a waterfall. The monk opened his eyes as if he had been expecting him all along. "What have you come to seek?" Joshu asked. Haru hesitated, then sighed. "I don't know. Perhaps a way to forget." Joshu gazed at the rushing water before them, then asked, "If you wanted to hold on to a river, what would you do?" Haru thought for a moment before replying, "You can't hold on to it. The water will slip through your fingers." The monk smiled. "Exactly. Pain is like a river. The more you try to hold on to it, the faster it slips away. But if you let it flow, it will find its way to the vast ocean." Haru stood still, absorbing the words. For the first time, he understood. Pain was not something to grasp or escape from. It was something to be felt, and then released. Joshu picked up a fallen leaf and placed it on the water. "Look at this leaf. It does not resist the current. It moves with it. You must do the same. Let your sorrow pass through you. Do not hold it prisoner in your heart." Haru watched the small leaf drift along the stream, and suddenly his heart felt lighter. He thought of his wife and son, not with crushing grief, but with a gentle remembrance. From that day forward, Haru was no longer a shadow of himself. He began to talk with the villagers again, sharing his story. and helping those who suffered as he once had. His sorrow was no longer a chain that bound him. Instead, it became a part of him, one that made him stronger, more compassionate. And whenever he stood by the river, he would remember that little leaf and Joshu's words, "Letting go does not mean forgetting. It means setting your soul free."